Well, hello all. I know you've been seduced into watching this because of the elegance and nuance of my MS Paint drawing, which is admittedly about the horizon on my graphics arts abilities. It's not something I've done in years and years, and I was never an artistic graphic design person. Did engineering drawings, some on some architecture, and AutoCAD R13 is about where I think I stopped with that, or maybe a little further, about the year 2000. I think I stopped doing that. I grew up manually drafting, a family of engineers, so I even still have a plan-hold drafting table, so pencil spinner. My brother was always better at the French curve than I was. Always envied that skill that he had with that. He was very good with that. Um, but so that was nice. But I did other things, and so it just hasn't been a big priority in my life. But things are changing. Uh, and I think I mentioned on my intro video that I'm, looking to understand the new storytelling, the new, I realize the newer generations don't do a lot of printed word. It's, audio and video directly, um, which has its pluses and minuses. Definitely there are some wonderful parts about it. Some technical stuff is great when you can show disassembly procedures or things like that. That can be extremely helpful. Show process. Um, Knot tying. Oh, the knot tying is so much better now that you can see the video as opposed to just colored lines and arrows going places. Um, but it's interesting that it has become what it has, and the distribution. I actually started this channel this morning, which is why it's still got just an H on it, because I'll get around to drawing something. I don't want to, quote unquote, borrow something, or I don't particularly want to use generative systems to do that. I'm not going to get into the politics of that. In fact, that's one of the things I just don't want to bother with. Um, but so I'll get around to that. But this morning I was watching some videos, just letting them go while I clean my room. It's kind of my Sunday because of the holiday season ending, and even if you are actively engaged and having a good time with it, it's still energy. It's stressful and it's energy draining. So this is sort of the reset day. So I'm just running around cleaning my room, listening to videos and things. And I heard a vlogger talk about. I've seen occasionally their stuff will drift across my feed, but they were talking about their experiences with the early internet. They're, I don't know, 12, 10, 12 years old, younger than I am, I suppose. So, their experiences, they very much mention that. It's like, experiences are going to differ. Our experiences were different because of that. And while I'm listening to them, and again, it's not a disagreement with any of their perspectives. It's their experience of that internet of that time. The internet for me was at a little bit of a different time. Just moved my mic. My apologies. I'm using a headset. Again, I don't have good mic technique. But I was, when I'm listening to it, I'm kind of comparing and contrasting my experiences. So I thought, what the hell? I'll whip up a channel and put up a video on it because I've been meaning to learn this stuff anyway. And rambling seems to be where they call them rant videos, and these sorts of things seem to be, I guess, rants more of the political anger type videos, maybe. But I think people maybe are looking for a little more personal perspective stuff. I mean, some of the stuff on YouTube that's highly produced is excellent. It's very good. Some documentaries. There are some really good documentaries and whatnot out there. But there's also the point for I think the personal perspective, and it's kind of the folk tales of that. We don't want to, necessarily lose that. It's the modern folk tale, which people can go back and look at. And I mentioned on one of their videos, I mentioned I did that and told them I didn't link to their video because they've mentioned before that they have some insecurity, and the internet can be, I understand, the web, the social media, what have you, can be a place maybe they they don't want to feel put upon. So I said, I made a video and said that I specifically didn't do that, didn't link them for, I think it's for privacy or something, I said. And I commented on another video, which just is an addendum to that they did about a couple of internet things. Like they had the background of Winamp, which was an old streaming media player, music, so you could play music mainly, an equalizer and all these things. And their tagline was Winamp, it really whips the llama's ass. And that is actually an homage to a musician named Wesley Willis, who had a song called Whip the Llama's Ass. And he was passed away, unfortunately, probably 22, 24 years ago, somewhere in there. I think I want to say 2002. Unfortunately, health problems, I believe. He was he had schizophrenia, and he had made outsider music. It really, his perspective, came from a way of cognition, of having a different mind. And I think that's why he became a bit of a cult figure with songs like Rock and Roll McDonald's. And he had an interest in architecture and did some very interesting drawings, mainly elevations and things, from some very interesting perspectives, both expressively and from sometimes from the actual angular point of view that he's drawing from. So I posted that. It's like, that's, from the Wesley Willis thing. And I mentioned it's time is, wow, 20 something years have gone by since he's passed away. And I did get a like on that comment. Not it's any big deal, but it connected with somebody. And then when I saw the like, and I went back and checked, the comment seems to be disappeared, at least on a different browser. I have a QA background, so some mission critical. So I always check. I run two browsers like everybody else does, and it just seemed to be gone. Though it appeared in my logged in browser, which means it wasn't a data problem. I just wanted to check if it was a data problem, because I do live on an island and sometimes comms can get a little scattered, especially with the weather the way it is. We've lost power for a number of days. But I appear to have been blocked by that, or for that rather, excuse me. And God, that was odd. It's certainly, first of all, it's within any channel owners or hosts' purview to do that. So that's nothing about that. And they get to run their thing the way they want to. It just, I did find it a little odd, as to why pretty innocuous comments would be blocked. I think some of it might be they have related and they're looking to make their presence, their media presence, an income stream, and possibly making it a career so they can discontinue their day job and whatnot. So maybe there's that. I did see somewhere they mentioned they used to get excited working with larger creators, so I think they were looking to climb a popularity ladder to facilitate that income. And I'm specifically not that. I'm someone aging out of the workforce to some extent and got some health issues, so I am not the coolest dude in the room, and the chances of me getting many views are negligible, so maybe I'm not worth the time. But I think there may also be some of it. I noticed the persona is a little bit towards, I'm the elder millennial. Well, I don't think they're millennial. I think they're probably, maybe right on the line somewhere, maybe Gen Z millennial line thing. But I think the persona or the communication style is speaking to people younger than them, 10, 20 years younger than them, as sort of an authoritative voice of history. And so maybe that stepped on their toes, and that I was a little bit older and had a part of history that predates them, with that stuff. So maybe that ruffled some feathers in terms of the branding or just the identity. Which brings up, I think, the point that I'm talking about here is social media, I think, can become very antisocial in a way, not even from the meanness that people talk about a lot and the uh, divisiveness and reactions, and creating crisis and reactions and that kind of thing. Rage bait, I guess, would be the term. Rage bait in the rantosphere. But I think it can be antisocial in a slightly different way, in that with the filtering we do now, it seems, and there's a lot of information, so I get it, but the filtering that people do, they can create these narcissistic silos. Narcissus, the nymph that looked in, or the character that would look into the water and think saw a beautiful nymph, the reflection, and became the narcissus flower because just stared at their own reflection for so long. So I mean it from that standpoint, not from the online insult we hear of narcissism. And I don't think that necessarily a person is, besides the clinical, narcissism, I think, is a description, and we can all have parts of that and become a victim to that. And I think that some of the media tools that are originally designed for trust and safety, I think is the term they use, can lead us down a path of using them to create silos of narcissistic comfort, and so that we don't hear not even criticism, but anything that is almost different, coming from a different perspective, or we have this view of ourselves, and there's somebody that is in that same area, and I could see that making that uncomfortable because, well, this is, my identity here. So people can get into these situations. You hear the terms echo chambers and bubbles and these sorts of things, where the experience becomes so curated, it does become narcissistic in terms of reflection. And I think that can come back to bite us, hence the sting, the scorpion sting. And I think it's something to be careful of. I hear people talk about hanging out with like-minded people, and I hear that more now. And with younger generations, I think I mentioned on another video about the Great Sort, the book. Is it The Big Sort or The Great Sort? I think it's The Great Sort, where his sociologist is looking at it, and the premise is that yes, in a historical perspective, at least in the online cultures and modern America, possibly other places. I think it was centered American, but definitely something to check out, that there is that more people get less and less contact with people not like them. And you hear that, I want to hang out with like-minded people. And that creates, I think, a certain danger in that we don't have a diversity, and I'm not talking even political diversity. I'm not, people are always like, oh, you mean you want to hang out with this political party or that political party? It can be much, different. Somebody who's grown up in China, or somebody who's a very good radio engineer, or whatever it is. Somebody studying Middle French, or just somebody with a different perspective on things. I've never been accused of being the most normal guy in the world. I remember one time a boss telling me, "Don't freak out the normals. We're having a big meeting." I used to live on a bicycle, spend a lot of time underwater. All these things that are different, and I find really, really enriching. And so that's my concern with the with the block. These are pretty innocuous comments, and again, it's it doesn't. It bugs me because it bugs me in the sense that I don't understand the social dynamics, and Well, granted, we're probably that audience and me are separated by 12 to 35 years, probably something like that. So there are different social dynamics. Um, and I'm from kind of a dynamic where it's more of exploration and not so much confirmation. I often like to hang out. I used to work in localization, and we had people from like 35. We always use native speakers. I don't know, 35 different languages. The parties were awesome. When we got to see the cultural. This was in my mid 20s, and so we got to see a lot of cultural differences, and um, but we were all young people having just having this weird, you know, life of like working software hard, and there were sports, and it was a very dynamic environment, but people were from different cultures, so it wasn't this dry cultural study. It was like your workmates were actually from different places, and you'd walk down the hall and people are speaking languages you don't understand, and that weird American paranoia of like not being able to understand. You got over that in about 3 days, because people are just speaking all kinds of different languages, um, and it's not just the words, it's how they do it, and that's a whole nother topic. But it was a beautiful, dynamic environment, and it's something I would personally like to foster in the this new communication style that I'm not very familiar with. But I am noticing that there is more of that siloing that um, I don't want to fight it. I mean, people need to have their little spaces for sure. So I don't mean fight it that way, but promote an open culture. Um, you know, and so that's why I thought it was very just wrapping my head around it. Very interesting that someone would become offended by. Uh, oh, hey, I made a little rant about my time with the early internet that was predated yours. So that was a different experience. Um, or commenting on it. It's like, yeah, that's from a song, which I just thought was a neat trivia piece. And it is. If you get a chance to check out Wesley Willis, it's very interesting outsider music. I from a very outlying um, cognitive arrangement, I guess would be the word. Um, well, I've taken up some of your time, so moving forward. It's just kind of I just want to. It's an interesting introduction to the modern media landscape for someone who's going to do just practicing, So that particular part, I probably will care not to integrate with very much, siloing and working on building numbers, or even working on using viewer number as a value metric, which I think a few people have said, where it's like, oh, like about lamenting. It's like, oh, you're a nothing. But people criticizing, oh, you're a nothing. Who are you? You only have X hundred viewers or something. And it's like, I'm not sure that's the best metric for a quality metric, or that kind of thing. I have taken up enough of your time today. So moving forward, I am just going to continue trying to foster a different system. I will learn the new systems and the new production means, and bring my perspective and my social dynamics to that, to enrich the space. I don't want to take over the space. There's nothing to take over. That ship sailed long ago. But bring my sense of social dynamics and participation to enrich the space. And that's about it. Hey, I really appreciate you guys listening.